And Helen, thank you. Kia ora to both of you. If you just want to make sure your mics are in front of you, perfect.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, councillors. I'm Aaron Shields, a team leader in the Regional Northwestern Islands Unit, and I have with me today Helen Shaw from Watercare. The next two items have elements of wastewater and water supply, and Helen is here to provide any assistance to the committee on those matters. Thank you. Yeah, do I do it? Okay. Shall I give it to you?
Sorry, you've got
Right.
pointed over here. Over. Okay, sweet.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I've got a couple of aerial photographs for you to illustrate the context of the Sinton Road private plan change area. This is in Whenuapai. It's north of the State Highway 18 that goes across the Greenhouse Bridge. And you can see on the left-hand side the area in the context of the airbase and the motorway system. On the right-hand side, the lots that are identified by the red line are the lots that are within the private plan change application. So the application itself is to rezone land to mixed housing urban and mixed housing suburban, and I'll show you that on the next. So this shows the existing zoning for you. So it's all future urban zone in the context of being north of what is called Hobsonville Village across the State Highway 18. So the request, as you can see it, identifies on the southern side of Sinton Road, mixed housing urban development, and then the land that is adjacent to the Wairohia Inlet is identified for mixed housing suburban. There's also a square that is green on the left-hand image, and that is 0.4 hectares of parkland that will be vested with council. And this request also has a substantial area of Esplanade Reserve along the coastal inlet. The right-hand image you can see is the location of those Esplanade Reserves along that edge. Okay. So here's the detail for you. The application seeks to rezone 3.8 hectares to mixed housing suburban and 9.6 hectares to mixed housing urban, which are zones you're familiar with. They're operative in the plan. 0.4 of a hectare for open space and approximately 2.85 hectares as Esplanade Reserve. They will apply the stormwater management area flow 1 control across the land, which is common and is used across all of our urban areas. And they propose to introduce a new precinct and associated precinct plan to manage the development of the site and the infrastructure triggers. So the future development strategy attends to this area and identifies it as being ready for development 2035 plus once bulk infrastructure is available. And development ready refers to the stage at which urban zoning and bulk infrastructure prerequisites are provided. So there are some potential grounds available for rejection for this particular application. There are aspects of the plan change that arguably contrary to sound resource management practice, and other aspects that could make Auckland Unitary Plan inconsistent. And the key unresolved issue relates to bulk water supply. That water supply and wastewater networks would be required before connections can be approved from the plan change area. So in the pre-application process, the applicant has been very constructive in its engagement with council and with Watercare, and Watercare agreed to review their precinct provisions and made recommendations that reflect the current limitations. So essentially some provisions in the precinct to manage the timing of water supply. To date, the requester has not accepted those provisions, but indicates that they're very supportive to address the water supply servicing, and will work through the detail of these provisions should the request be accepted. So the understanding that Watercare has of water supply is evolving, and there's new information arriving through other plan change processes that would contribute to the ability to work through the detail of those provisions in the statutory process. So my recommendation today is that the request be accepted, albeit that there are some grounds to reject it, and I recommend that the council exercise its discretion. What the acceptance will provide is the ability for the request to be considered through the statutory process of submissions and hearings, and the matters at issue to be resolved through that process. I think that's the last slide.
Thank you. And yep, I've got a chair's rec, if you want to put it up. Myself and Councillor Dalton will move in second. And we are taking your advice on the accept, but we are putting in what we normally do in this situation is that we will approve a council submission that the request be declined unless the plan is modified to address the issues in the plan change that we have issues with. And I do, I guess, have a question for Helen on the Watercare issue. Wastewater, there's sometimes other solutions, shall we say, but on the bulk water supply, you'd suggest that this wouldn't go ahead anyway without, I mean, how would they provide the water supply without water supply? I guess if you want to explain Watercare's position.
Yeah, look, we're, as Erin said, we're dealing with or talking to a lot of applicants in terms of private plan changes and other applications in this area around water supply. So there's a lot going on, and we're actively trying to work out how we can, what the risk is for us and how we can supply water long term to this area. There's quite a lot of uncertainty around rates of growth and what we need to provide. So we're working through it. I guess if there is no access to the water supply at this point, I mean, noting that this is a FGS 2035, we've got the North Harbour 2 water main coming in at kind of the 20, what have I got there, 2035-ish. Options self-servicing in terms of water supply are things like rain tanks. And otherwise, yeah, I guess just trying to work our way through some of the data and information that we have. I mean, the other alternative is obviously waiting until that bulk water is available.
Thank you. Are there any other questions on this? Councillor Watson.
So I'm just checking that I heard this correctly. So you're suggesting that an interim measure might be putting in water tanks?
Well, self-supply is an alternative if there is no bulk water supply, and there are occasions where groundwater might be accessed for a private supply. Rain tanks are fairly unreliable in terms of a long-term water supply. They don't tend to hold out very well in drought situations, and so there's complications involved with that as well. I mean, we wouldn't recommend it as a sole source for a development such as this.
So is there some identified ground supply in this area?
I'm not sure, actually. I don't know.
Okay, so this is a pretty well-known and reputable developer who's been around for quite a while, of course. One of the things I'm struggling a little bit is we've got this future urban land which has been identified with certain timelines, and there's another one that's coming after this, ironically enough, which the recommendation is to decline. I'm just wondering then how useful or concrete that whole timeline is then when applications can come in, say, like a decade earlier or something, with a shortage or apparent shortage or questions over the supply of basic infrastructure. So yeah, how is it? And I say that because in this area there has been quite a lot of concern over out of sequence development and the scale of development that's been improved anyway. I mean, this is I guess is a good site. It's close to the motorway and all the facilities and all the rest of it. I'm not saying that, but it doesn't seem to provide that certainty that we were really indicating in times gone by with the structure plan and with this whole timing sequence.
Through the chair, I might just start, and if you wanted to add anything specific, but you've got to the nub of the situation we're currently in, well, for the last few years certainly, and possibly into the future, where we are trying to do what we're being asked to do, trying to do the right thing about setting a bit of a time frame around when infrastructure may be able, to be provided in an area, yet private plan changes and other can just come in and sweep over all of that. The RMA is permissive in that sense, and I expect it to get even more permissive given what ministers have been saying lately. So it feels very hard to plan and even provide certainty because other people or processes can come in and take it over. And so this is why we bring so many of these to you. We hear the concerns. We know that infrastructure and growth doesn't pay for growth. We know the challenges we have. And so we try and do on this course assessment the best that we can to go, well, look, it's kind of within cooey the time frame, or it's nothing like the time frame. Where are our infrastructure providers up to in terms of the infrastructure both that we have there now and into the next kind of short term, and therefore whether we think this should proceed or whether we should say no. And so that's why, particularly on this agenda, you've got a few that are saying yes and a few that are saying no, because of that timing, because of the cost of infrastructure, because of its location and all those kinds of situations. So you're right, there is very little certainty. There's no certainty for council or ratepayers, and there's a lack of certainty as well for landowners and developers as well.
So finally then, just in terms of this particular application, what you're saying, Erin, is that unless the matters are addressed, obviously, then the developers can't proceed. So that's that's obvious kind of counterweight to everything, isn't it? Unless the infrastructure issues are addressed in whatever shape or form it is, then there's nothing going to happen, is it?
Yeah, so through my report, and I've provided what's called a course merits assessment, I reached the view that there are issues, yes, but there is enough that is able to be supported for it to go to the statutory process and be considered by independent commissioners through that. And as part of that, for Watercare to work further with the applicant to resolve the issues and get the provisions into the unitary plan that manage the water supply issue.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we might be, the Mayor might be talking about the next one, not this one. Okay. Any other questions? Cool. Cool. So I just, maybe if I can ask Erin or Megan, what we're doing here is not accepting, not adopting this. We're not saying it should happen, but because it is closer to the date than others we get, we are still saying it could go to a hearing, but we're saying we will oppose it unless the matters mentioned in the report are dealt with.
Yes, that's right, and so your chair's rec, in red, reflects that we believe this should be declined if these matters are not dealt with. However, we think overall it is worth going through the hearing process to make that consideration.
Councillor Turner.
Thank you. I just, every time, in the face of such a chaotic planning landscape that we seem to have with all our discussions at the moment, every time I hear these discussions and water care get mentioned, I'm worried that they're becoming the default control. That's not what we're saying here?
I mean, from my perspective, the rec talks about not just water care. Water care, in this case, water supply. I mean, we can say we've got roads that we congested, but you can't say the pipe will come with your water. Like, that's a definitive. But we have mentioned a lot more than just water supply in the submission. But I think in the situation of water care, my personal view, but Erin or Helen might want to give an opinion, they are being quite clear where there is no or will not be any infrastructure for a development.
Through the chair, if I may, the submission that would be provided for consideration by the Independent Hearings Commissioners would be an Auckland Council submission. So we own that submission and we would represent it at the hearing. We would either most likely be supported by our colleagues from Watercare in terms of the technical work that is attached to that submission.
Thanks, Councillor. I'll just get you both to step back and then we will debate this one. Is there anyone who would like to speak to it? Right, all those in favour? Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Move on to item 16. I think Councillor Butley, if you wanted to